Hello, everyone, and welcome to another very special episode of the 1973 podcast. We're here with, hopefully, after we're done, I always say it, friend of the show, Mark Mowers. We'd like to thank Mark for coming on, and we always start off every episode, and we always say, as a kid, how did the hockey journey begin, Mark?
Oof. Do you want the short version or you want me to get right into it?
It's
All right,
your
get ready.
show. It's not mine.
We got a long way to go.
I'm just your host.
No, for me it started upstate New York and my parents building the rink in the backyard. That's the simple start of how I began to love the sport and love the game. And it's strange because neither of them were hockey players, but I think they just thought living in upstate New York, that's something it was part of what you had to do, and it fortunately worked out really well for me.
So, how did the journey through youth hockey go? When did you think that you had some potential to play on a bigger stage?
So once again, I didn't know I didn't know if you wanted me to get into the whole little thing here, but and
Sure.
just cut me off if it gets too long.
No,
But
no, no.
so
We
yeah,
always
so
say grab a drink of water or something when we know
yeah,
you're done.
yeah,
But
no,
have
that's
at it.
great. No, so yeah, so it was upstate New York outside of Utica, and I was just youth hockey, played high school hockey. And, I tell this to everybody that the whole thing, like the dream of the NHL always comes up. And for me, it was the exact opposite of that. Like I never in a million years thought I would play an NHL game. I wasn't even considering it. It was just that I played the game because I loved the game and I love going to the rink and I love playing street hockey and all that stuff, all the intangibles, some of the stuff that's not there anymore, which is sad to me. But anyway, even in my high school career, just I got better every year, and I remember a couple. I don't know, prep school kind of came up my senior year a little bit, and I was like, "Are you crazy? Like my friends are here. Like I'm not leaving public school. Like it's not happening." So actually, out of my senior year, I put my I think it was a $500 deposit to Canton Tech. It was a 2-year school up and way up by the St. Lawrence River in New York. And but I got invited in the spring or summer to I don't even know what it was. It was like a USA type festival. Like I guess some of the better players in New York were invited, and I guess I did pretty good. And I got an invite to try out for the Saginaw Gears, which they had a junior A team back in 1992, and now they're major junior, I believe. But so I asked my parents, and they were like, you know what, if you want to do it, go ahead, do it. Like, who cares about the $500? We'll figure it out. And if you end up wanting to go back, if it doesn't work out. Anyway, long story short, like I did well again and signed a contract or whatever for 1 year, played there, and things got better and better, and I started scoring goals. And then the team Dubuque and USHL reached out at the end, and they wanted me to sign for the following year. And I knew at that point, like the USHL was a better league as far as getting, it's just a better league. And that's where college kind of came in a little bit. Like Ferris State, I remember reached out to me and went to Dubuque, had probably my best year ever. I had 51 goals or something crazy. And I'm not really a goal scorer, and then UNH came calling. I went on like 5 visits and I ended up at UNH and playing 4 years there. And once again, it was like every year it was like a stepping stone. I just kept getting better, but I wasn't thinking about the NHL really until probably my junior year in college. It still wasn't the NHL, but it was about a pro contract potentially. Um, and sure enough, after my senior year, I had a couple teams that were in Edmonton and Nashville. I chose Nashville, and the rest is history.
So,
So,
so there wasn't you didn't go through the draft process. We
right.
always kind of talk about these crazy draft stories with some of
Yeah.
these guys, how they were talking to one team and one little thing changes the course of history that
Yeah.
they mentioned in a draft interview. And
Yeah.
it's intriguing for the guys that don't get that info, or don't know
Mhm.
how it works. And it's just, as a fan, you don't get that coverage in the United States sometimes with how the draft works, and how one little thing, depending on a personality and a GM, can change whether they take you or not. And
It,
yeah, it's just it's
yeah.
very interesting, that the process. But when you were going to UNH, were they grooming you at all to like woo you to go to the school? Do you have any good like recruitment stories?
Not really. I mean, I kind of wanted to come back east just because my parents were still in New York, and I visited Duluth and in North Dakota, and I had great visits and stuff. But Providence and UNH were the two schools I chose in the east to go visit, and I really don't have it. To be completely honest, I was sick as a dog on my trip to UNH, and I just battled through it. But I just loved the campus, and it just felt like home, and it was a great decision for me. Providence was a guy had a great. I don't remember a lot of the visit in Providence because I went out with the boys a little bit too hard, but what I do remember is that the Mike McShane was the coach, and I remember the fans were all over him, and even the players told me after when we went out, they're like, don't worry, he's going to be gone. And so in my mind, I was like, that's great, but I mean, who's going to be the coach? Like, I can't pick a school because not knowing who the coach was. So everything just lined up to go to UNH. But yeah, no, I didn't really have any great stories at UNH other than I just remember I was so sick, but I loved the place.
But for the fans that don't know, in the early 90s, the Hockey East was a huge division for college hockey. It was like phenomenal
Yeah.
back then. And your Providence story, we know Providence, Rhode Island very well. And in the 90s, it was a thing.
Yeah.
Not so much now,
Remember,
but back then it was quite a trip.
yeah, up on the hill or something. We were on the hill and rolling down the hill.
So
It was
true, Sarah.
it
So
was a good
true.
time. Good times.
So your journey into the NHL, you get to Nashville, and thoughts on your initial impression between uh, your experience going into the NHL and the difference between the college hockey and the NHL experience right off the rip.
Yeah, I think looking back, like it's I think confidence is a huge thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Once again, maybe because I just wasn't expecting to be there or be part of it. Like, I was just a little hesitant, especially early on. And just not confident that I belonged or I didn't have that belief. It was kind of like, what the hell am I? I'm excited and I'm trying not to like look across the room at Cliff Ronning and Tommy Fitzgerald and these guys. But I was always a little hesitant. So my advice when I tell, certain kids now when they're going from college, I'm like, just act like don't be cocky, but act like you belong because you're this close. Like college hockey, I'm not saying you play at whatever, Providence, UNH and you're going to play against the Panthers right now, and you're going to go out there and it's going to be easy. That's not what I'm saying, but there's such a fine line between making it and not making it, like signing a contract or not signing a contract. The confidence is a huge thing. So it's not, and if you don't have it, it's like everything's, you're kind of in awe. It's like, I still remember playing and like, there were certain games I was very comfortable and I had good games, but for the majority of them, like the lights are brighter and the sounds are different, and it's just a different feel when you play in an NHL game. So, that being said, like the American League for me it took me a little while, but it wasn't a problem at all. It was, slipped right in and felt really good and felt like I could control most of my shifts and have productive seasons in the AHL. But it was a grind. My career. I'm sure you looked kind of at. It was definitely a grind. I mean, I must have got called with 4 years in Nashville. I was probably called up and sent down. I don't know, 50, 60 times. So it was tough.
Yeah, before we get too far into the NHL stuff, which I'm enamored with, I'm gonna have Tom and Ed do a quick roundtable with some questions. Tom, what do you
Yeah,
got?
cool.
Sure. I know the one year you had 89 points in the AHL. Did that kind of spur the confidence that you were talking about having?
It definitely helped. That was Detroit, I think, in Grand Rapids. Yeah, I played with this guy Michel Picard, and he was a left shot. He could snipe it, and we just had great chemistry. And that was probably halfway through my career, which was I think it was probably over. I can't even remember how many years it was, kind of up and down, maybe 8 or 9. But yeah, it definitely helped me when I went to the Red Wings. But then, the next year when I got called up to Detroit, like Mike Babcock was my coach, and I mean. he put me right back to not believing in myself. Put it that way. He was tough. He was very tough. So there's so many factors, and going back to talking about the draft, it's the same thing. Before you get there, there's certain guys that like you. There's guys that are fighting for you. They might take you because the head amateur scout likes you, but then the GM sometimes will step over him and not. So there's always every year. It just seems like there's different challenges.
Ed, what do you got for Mark?
Mark, I'm going to take you back a little bit to UNH. Who was the guy when you stepped out on the ice when you played for UNH, whether it be for UMaine, BU, BC, Providence College, that just you're like, man, that dude is just one bad dude out here.
My initial thought, I mean, I played against Chris Drury for 4 years, but the guy that I remember the most because it was so scary was Mike Greer. And I only had to play against him for 1 year. I think he graduated after 1 or 2 years, but I was just like, man, if he hits me, I could be done. Like I might not be able to walk again. This guy, he plastered guys. So he was the one. He was probably the one that I don't know about feared, but it's probably a good word for it.
He was a very large man on skates, to say the
Oh
least.
man, he hit hard. He hit. I mean, I'm trying. There was a D man in Northeastern too. I can't recall his name, but those two guys, I mean, the boards just bent sideways when they hit guys.
We saw
But
him hit somebody at Northeastern,
Oh yeah.
and it was probably one of the hardest college hits I've ever seen in person.
yeah,
So let's go back to when you have a welcome to the NHL moment?
I've given him shit about it before. But Barry Trotz is my coach, and he played me 3 shifts the whole game. And I was like, so anyway, but my moment was just walking in the locker room and seeing my jersey hanging there. Like that was the one thing. It's just I'll never forget it. It's just I don't know. It's surreal. It really was surreal, and it's just that's what I always tell people when they ask that question. But yeah, I think going back to once again this whole like thing on confidence and how good you can be or whatever. But when your coach doesn't play you a lot, your first game and then your second game, and you're playing 2 shifts a period, like it kind of makes you feel like you don't belong either. So you're fighting that part of it as well, even if you're not like the most confident person to start with. So once again, it's every year's a battle, and every week can be a battle. Dealing with different factors.
I don't want to really jump around too much, Mark. I want to stay on the timeline. But out of the NHL teams that you played for, and of course we'll throw the Bruins in there, even though not my favorite. But which one had the biggest impact on you?
Probably say I'd probably go with Detroit just because the locker room. I mean, I had Dave Lewis. Dave Lewis was my coach of the first year, and he was great because he just kind of he put the game plan up, and he just expect guys to be pros and do their thing. And I mean, we had so many, probably 13, 14 Hall of Famers on that team. So, and they were great guys. They did build your confidence, and you know what I mean. And I remember Brett Hull telling me, he's like, "What are you doing? Like, shoot the damn puck!" Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Yzerman, and you could go to them at any time, and they would pump you up and give you some help and stuff. So that was probably the team where I took the most from it. But then once again, Babcock came in the next year, and everything got screwed up. But
So I'll pause you right there because you brought him up already twice. What
yeah.
is if you had to tell a Babcock story, what would it be? Do you have an infinite moment where it was like, yeah, this guy's not right for me?
I figured that there's a few things, I guess, but I knew right away because he scratched the 1 year I was there. I got scratched. He scratched me probably 36 times. Like it was awful. But I knew in the morning of a game, if he would come in and ask me how my family was, I knew I wasn't playing that night. But if he walked by me and didn't say a word, because he would do that, he just walked by and doesn't even say hi. I knew I was in the lineup. So it was that like for me was mind-boggling. But anyway, it happened to me again in Anaheim. God, I'm having a tough time with coaches, but he did this. This guy did the same thing. But anyway, I have like my worst story with Babcock, and I only tell it because, some people out there still defend him, but the guy, he's not a good guy. He's just a bad guy. Like, but we were out in Denver and I had a 2-on-1 with Danny Cleary. I remember 2-on-1. I had the puck. I saucered it over to Danny. He's got an open net and he misses it. Right? Big deal. I mean, no big deal. Like it happens, whatever. But we won the game. After the game, Babs calls me like around the corner, like not private or anything, and starts like giving it to me, and so everybody can hear it. And he's like, he's yelling at me because he's like, "You're not that type of player. If you get another 2-on-1, you shoot the puck. You're not passing the puck. We could have had a goal there, and we didn't get a goal." And I was like, "What the hell?" Like it was like I was at an all-time low right then. Like it was just. So I remember flying home from Denver, and Chris Osgood, he lived close to each other, so he was driving behind me, and I called him on the way home. I said, Ozzy, I'm seriously about to drive off the road right now. Like, please talk me off the cliff because this guy he's killing me. So Ozzy was great, and he made me laugh and whatever, it passed. And I'm not saying I would have done that, but it's amazing how a coach can try to bury you. Or a manager can do it as well, but it does happen out there. And it's like, I never look for sympathy, and I'm not one of these guys that needs to be coddled, and I'm not like that at all. And I'm not trying to pout about, but I did nothing wrong. And from day one, the guy just, there was a few of us that he just wanted to bury, and it almost worked. It almost worked.
Well, he's had his final run in the NHL, and it was short. So, what goes around comes around sometimes.
That's what you hope. That's what you hope. So yeah, I would think by now, I think it's probably got to be the end. I mean, if anybody gives him another shot, it's like. So anyway, it's not a positive story, but that was part of it.
No, it adds to the lore of the track record. So
yeah.
Tom, question for Mark.
Sure. Do you remember who you scored your first goal against?
Oh man. Oh God. I think it was it's crazy. Like, it was Jose Theodore. That's who it was. I was just going to talk about my brain and how I'm 51, but I feel like everything just shuts down. It's crazy. But it was Nashville. It was in Nashville. I played 30 games. I had 6 assists in 30 games, and it was starting to really like get to me. I was like, I need to get a goal here. But but I wasn't playing a lot. Like I'm playing like 5 minutes a game, but still, it doesn't matter. You still see a goose egg there, and but it felt pretty good. I looked up into the heavens for sure when it went in.
There for Yuri Fisher. He watched by Billy Neiman, and the Red Wings are able to chip it out. Jordan Leopold gathers it up. Leopold ahead for Jerome McGinley. That goes right down to Legacy. They're playing up high off the glass and out. Many Legacy's puck handling confidence. A major change from previous year. Maltby walking in, dropping it off. Here's Mark Mowers walking in front of the net, score! Mark Mowers with his 3rd goal of the year, and it is a beauty.
And he's in for Chris Draper, but it all starts with Manny Legacy handling the puck, doing a great job. Puck comes in. He said, we don't need a face off in our own zone. Let's push the pace of the game. Robin McGill has it in the neutral zone. Mowers pressures him. Now Maltby, a little toss and drop. Here comes an absolutely unbelievable goal by Mark Mowers. That's Alice Yzerman with a left-hand shot rather than a right-hand shot.
Well, Jose Theodore won the Hart Trophy for MVP of the league, so that's something to write home about.
There you go. You're right. For sure.
Question for Mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the players that you played against. Who was the toughest D that you went up against when you played pro?
Man, can I pick one that was on my team?
Sure.
Was it Praga?
Well, I mean, Pronger's right up there, but I had Pronger, Lidström. Nick Lidström was this guy. Talk about a 2-on-1. You try to make a pass through him. Like I think if I tried it 12 times, he knocked it down every single time. His hands and his hockey IQ are just insane. But then the other one was Chara. Like I played with Chara in Boston when he came over, and like in practice, you just couldn't. There was no space. You have no chance like in 1-on-1s and stuff like that. But Yeah, so it's I guess it's easier just for me to remember the guys I played with, which obviously those are three pretty good D-man.
I would say so for sure.
So speaking of Hall of Famers, let's go back to Detroit and the guys that were on the team with you. It must have been awe-inspiring, as even if you were a kid growing up, or you know, just in the Hall of Famers, just legit
Yeah.
Hall of Famers. These aren't guys that waited like a few times to get in. These were,
Yeah.
yeah. What do you have, like somebody that really mentored you, or was like a true class guy that wasn't trying to sabotage your career, like like you
Yeah.
were talking about the coaching aspect, but
Yeah.
was there someone that really wanted to see you succeed out of those guys?
You know what? I wouldn't say there was just one. It really was multiple guys that I could have went to, whether it was Chris Draper. There's secondary guys too that won't be in the Hall of Fame that were just unbelievable players and unbelievable guys too. But like Darren McCarty was on the team. I could go to him. Like Thomas Holmstrom, like unbelievable guy, like work with you in front of the net on tipping and stuff like that. And I already mentioned some of the others, but like um, it was kind of a handful. Like Matthew Schneider, I remember talking with him. Brendan Shanahan, he was great in training camp. Like I stayed with him the first year, I believe, and just yeah, like it wasn't really one guy that I hung around with a lot. Ray Whitney was another one that was kind of just everywhere you looked. There was guys that were like unbelievable players, and you knew you could approach them, and they would give you an honest. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to be taking their spot in the lineup either, um, but you know what I mean. Like it wasn't just one, for sure, not one guy. If anything, it was that I hung out the most with. It was Osgood and Jamie Rivers, and because we were the three that he tried to beat down so much, so we kind of always talked to each other in that sense to kind of you know be more positive around each other. But as far as the Hall of Famers and stuff, I can't just pick one. They were all so great.
Yeah, the infamous Babcock Chelio story was, where he sat him
Yeah,
during the Winter Classic. I mean, it's
yeah,
crazy. And then he just
yeah,
starts drinking beers on the bench.
yeah.
So, I
It,
mean, it's just crazy
yeah,
how
it's
you have
becoming
that.
I don't want it to become part of the whole podcast here, but you know what I
Right,
mean.
right.
But it does kind of take over in some sense. But that like Mike Modano, he works with I scout with Minnesota now, and Modano's with us kind of as like an advisor thing, and I don't know if you remember him, but he had 1499, and it was games. And I think it was the last game of the season that they were either in the playoffs or out of the playoffs, and he scratched them.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, what's wrong with you? But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway.
He went home for that one season to play for Detroit, and
Yeah,
at the end,
yeah.
and they stuck it to him.
Yes.
That's the easiest way I can put it as a hockey fan. They stuck it to him, and I love Mike Modano. If you see him, tell him I love him. I just seen him at a show not too long ago. He came up this way. He was with my kids and stuff. So great guy. I couldn't believe that I was actually never seeing him before like that as in general population. He was great.
He's and it's like I just said, like now I get to work with him. It's like sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I should just sit back and be like, what is this is unbelievable, because
Crazy.
he really is a great guy. And, to go back to the player thing, if you would have asked me the forward that I played against, and not that I didn't get out on the ice against him a ton, but Madonna would be the one guy that jumps at me as a forward where just his speed and the jersey flapping in the back, like he was just when he was going. I mean, you're like he can't be stopped.
Yeah.
He just can't be stopped. So he's up there for me as far as opponents.
Tom, question for Mark.
Sure. Talking about getting called up and sent down, how did you stay so mentally sharp?
Uh, I don't know. I was never a powder, that's for sure. You know what I mean? Like I didn't go down and not try or anything like that. And it just I will say this: the game was easier when you went down. Like in the first couple of games down, you're like, wow, it really. It just was, I don't know, because everything's so fast and everything up top, it's just faster and everybody's bigger. So it just seemed like it was more space. But yeah, it was just staying positive and not, staying the path and trying to get better and working with coaches and all that stuff. It was never, I just tried to stay even and not always easy, especially at the 27th time when you sent down in your third year pro or whatever I was. It's like, man, can I just catch a break and stay up here? So once again, I don't think it was one thing. I think it was just a continuous thing of not getting too down and just understanding it's part of the process. And like we hit on in the very beginning, whether it's getting drafted or it's being a roster player, you got different people on your side, and you got other people that aren't on your side. I remember being on the bench in Nashville when I wasn't playing much, and I remember Trotzy calling me to go penalty kill, and I thought I was a pretty good penalty killer. Um, in one game, I remember the assistant coach Brent Peterson, and I give him shit about this too when I see him down in Nashville still. But he goes over and whispers in the air to Trotzy, like he said like, I don't want Mowers out there because he ran the penalty kill. So Trotzy took me off it, and I'm like, what the hell's going? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like you're always fighting different elements, and so anyway, that just reminded me of that story. So.
Ed, question for Mark.
What was your favorite city to play in? When you were playing in the NHL, just what was the city that you just like? Man, I just love playing here.
I would say, and I'm only going off of, not necessarily the city where, because we didn't really have time to, see the city and walk around. But like when I played in St. Louis, I don't know why or what. I always say it was the seats. The seats were like kind of brighter blue, and I just played well in St. Louis. I don't know why. So it was like whenever I had to go there, I was like, this is, I don't know. It just came easier to me in that building. It was very, very strange. So that I was always excited when I was in the lineup, I guess you could say, in St. Louis. I mean, don't get me wrong. You go to MSG and like it's pretty cool. You walk up the tunnel or the boat ramp, whatever, or the bus ramp, and like there's definitely places and you're like, holy cow, this is crazy. But as far as success for me, I love going to play the Blues.
So I got to ask you. We usually ask a couple of the same questions to everybody. So I'll start with this one, and the guys will know where I'm going with it. Funniest guy that you played with, like absolute, like hockey relevancy for stereotypical clown.
My God, let me think. Let me think. You should have sent me this one before. Because the thing is, you play with so many guys that are like, oh man, I got to go back to Detroit, and he's not. I can't really think of a guy that was like a clown. Like I could be like that a little bit. Like I'm always joking around and messing with guys a little bit, but the one guy that would surprise you, and I'm not saying he was a class clown type, but like Pavel Datsuk he didn't talk a lot or whatever, but he would always, he just found a way to jab you and, say certain things. And he thought it was the funniest thing. And so it's probably not what you're looking for, but it definitely helps you understand what kind of guy he was too. Like he was ultra focused, but yet he was a goofball. He was kind of a goofball too. So anyway, as we're talking, if I think of anybody else, I'll throw it back in there. But he's one on Detroit that comes to mind.
Did you have any run-ins with Sean Avery at all?
Well, I mean, he's another one that has he been on your show?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few guys that I can't. They're just bad teammates, and he's one of them. He's the Mike Babcock as a teammate for me.
We're hitting on all cylinders, Mark, with these stories.
I haven't thought about him in a while either. He was just one of those. He loved to put people down. I don't know. It was very strange, but he was selfish, and it made him. I don't know. It just made him happy to put people down. It was like, ugh, yeah, he was bad. He was bad. So,
Tom, question for Mark.
Sure. Now, I know who you're not going to name here, but what coach do you think you had that had the biggest influence on your career?
I always say Claude Noel. He coached Winnipeg for a year or two, head coach, but he didn't last too long as a head coach in the NHL. But I had him as an assistant in Milwaukee, And he was the very first coach that I had. Not saying none of the coaches wouldn't stay out after at times and work with you or say, what do you want to work on? But he actually he individualized you, and he knew kind of he didn't push you to work on stuff that he knew you needed, but he kind of guided you a little bit, and he waited for you to say, like, can I work on cutbacks or work on angling or quick shots from the slot or stuff like that. So I just always felt like he really cared individually. He wasn't going to chase you down, but he would stay out on the ice, and he would just wait for guys to come to him. And when you did, it was very rewarding, and he definitely helped me get better for sure.
Ed, question for Mark.
Sure, Mark. I mean, as your career went along, how did you stay in shape and what kind of workout routine,
Yeah.
were you on and that type of thing? And, we talked to quite a few of the guys in there, they were always like, the teams really started through the 90s into the 2000s, so really big on VO2 max and that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So this is I love talking about this too, and I don't think a lot of people probably think about it in this sense, but like it depends what your body type is as far as I'm not saying, you got to train appropriately, but I mean some guys have quick twitch, where they have agility, some guys don't. So, my body type, like I would lose like 15 pounds every year. I'd start at 185. By the end, I'm 170, and I'm fighting to keep myself above 170. It's like people like I go home for the summer. My buddies are like, "Are you sick or what's wrong with you?" Um, but anyway, like so, I tried to during the summer. I knew I had the quickness, so I always tried to like work on power and do heavier squats and that type of thing. And I remember one year though, like I almost went too far, and I started the season at like 192, but I couldn't even stick handle. I'm like, doing too many shrugs and all this stuff. But I learned that one year, I was like, man, I just can't, you know what I mean? There's a line where you gotta, at least for my body type, there was a line that you couldn't cross or was going to affect the way you play and then the reason why you got to where you got. So, but yeah, I think in general, as a whole, like guys had to, you had to do like some endurance stuff, be able to go hard for 3 minutes. You had to, go hard for 45 seconds and push through. I think there was a test called the Wingate, where high tension and you just had to go. It was about 45 seconds, but it was like you got off it and you just felt like throwing up. Like you push to the absolute max. Um, and we did a skating test too, where I remember you had to go down, back through the middle. And I think I don't know how much time in between, maybe a minute, and do it 5 times. But the problem with these tests sometimes is like guys train for the test. Like instead of training for, the season, they're training for this testing. So it kind of it's almost counterproductive in some ways, I think. But anyway, I mean, you could tell the guys that didn't work out in the summer because they were hurting. They were hurting big time. So
Yeah, the older players that we've had on from that played a lot in the 70s, they had said that the training camp was to get in shape. Nobody ever went into training camp in shape. Now
yes,
it's a different kind of athlete than it was then. It was more of
yes,
a blue collar kind of feel
yeah,
to it, and now it's more of a business feel to it. Does that kind of
yeah.
make sense with the
Oh,
presentation?
for sure. And I don't know. I think the training camps have got cut down too a little bit. So I don't know how long they were. I mean, I remember when I first started, we had like 12 preseason games. Like it was crazy, So, and I don't know back in the 70s what they had or whatever, but no, you're absolutely right. It is. It's like I don't know if business is the exact word, but you just had to be ready, And now I can tell you this: if I had my vote, I'd go back to the 70s, like because you know, going back to the workout, question, like, and I don't know. We could talk about this is a different topic, but as far as like, I don't know if it's the food we're eating now or what it is, or if it's overtraining or what. But like back in the 70s, there was no hip flexor injuries. Like guys weren't blowing out their knees as much, and they're like, So for me, I really do believe we overtrain and like that word core, like your core has to be tight and this and that. Well, when it's tight and you go out and you skate, what's going to happen? It's like it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? So you're you know pushing these bands to a max, and then all of a sudden they pop and whatever. So that I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that's my theory on this whole thing. And I wish they would go the other way, but they just, they won't.
And
But
you want to add? Ed?
Yeah, I would ask Mark, do you think that a lot of this has to do with all the specialty camps that kids do now, like all the pretty much playing year round? I mean,
Yeah.
growing up where the four of us grew up, I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of ice going on in the
Yeah.
summertime when we were kids,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on this too. This conversation comes up quite a bit with buddies that have kids in youth hockey and stuff. And I mean, I don't know if it's the injuries and stuff are due to one sport that could come into play, or kids just, now kids are like lifting at like 10 years old and stuff where their bodies aren't even formed. They're not, they haven't even gone through puberty, and they're, you know what I mean? Their bones and their muscles are still growing. So how can you, so I think there's an issue there a little bit. Like I'm not, if I wasn't coaching those kids, I'd probably wait till 13 before I got them in the weight room, really. Maybe do push-ups and pull-ups and all that stuff. But, but to hit on what you just said, though, the problem I have with the one sport thing is, well, one is they're not gaining like the instincts of playing other sports that can be used. You could play hockey and do things on the ice that could help you as a baseball player, and vice versa, right? So that's one thing for me. But the other part, and I'd put money on this. There's no way of proving it, but like I feel like these kids are just burnt out. Like I watch NHL games, and to the average fan, you watch an NHL game. Maybe you guys could tell me different, and you probably could. Some games you just watch, are you kind of like, well, that was kind of a 90% of the guys floating through, and I'm not saying, I think part of it is the grind. Like 82 games is tough. They're going to go to, what are they going, 86 next year, or 84 or whatever. But I just think you tie up your skate laces, and that's the only thing you do from age 6 until you're, turn pro. If you turn pro and you're 20, and you're doing it, I don't know, 8 times a week, where it used to be 4 times a week max, in the 80s. Don't you just think, like, over time, like how can you be excited to go to the rink, whether you're, I don't care if you're a high school player, college player, or a pro player, you're just going to lose some of that jam, like some of that love for the game. I feel, not everybody. I think there's probably a small percentage where, the kids are like, well, I love it. And I'm like, well, that's the only thing because you, you know what I mean? So you think you love it because you don't know anything else. But anyway, it's another conversation. But it's a pet peeve of mine, the way this whole thing's going.
Well, you touched on it a little bit when we started the show, Mark, where we were talking about kids that we all grew up playing outside. I was not the biggest basketball guy, but everybody had a hoop in their almost in their driveway. So when you went outside after school, you played whatever was going on in the neighborhood. It wasn't always basketball. It was maybe touch football or Nerf football, or you would play street hockey. And it was more seasonal too, because, kids would watch more sports. Now they only watch clips of sports. They can't even make it through a whole game. It's the bizarrest thing to me.
I'm with you. I remember having the basketball hoop, and I'd go out there by myself, and I remember I wouldn't go inside until I sank a 3-pointer, a free throw, and a layup. And if I didn't hit those 3 in a row, I have to start over. I remember doing it all the time, but the ball's going off the rim. You're going left, right. You're trying to, you don't want it to go in the garage, because that's like it's like a foul, and you're playing by yourself, whatever. But that was just part of, I don't know. It's just too bad. It's just too bad. But
yeah, punishment used to be you can't go outside. Now punishment is go outside and find something to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tom, question for Mark.
Sure. I know you got involved once you stopped playing. You got broadcasting. Is that something you always wanted to do, or is that something that the opportunity just came to you?
Yeah. So I knew I was retiring that my last year over in Switzerland, and it just was time. I could just tell I couldn't do the things I used to do. And so I started looking around like halfway through the season and throwing my name out to guys that were GMs that I played for or, played with, to maybe stay in hockey. But I really was going to try to get out of hockey and do something else. But then I got home, and I was like, man, like that's everything just led back to hockey. Like everybody I know, all my networks and connections and people. So I had like I started like a training program. I had like 8 kids doing off ice stuff and high school kids and I started an agency in Switzerland. I had a couple clients over there and then I got a call from somebody with Nesson. So no, to answer your question, I was scared to death, to be honest with you. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is not me. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not, but at the same time, they called me and they were like, no, you'll be fine. Yeah, it takes a little while and, but you're perfect. You're exactly what we want. And we're going to have you do the college games. And I was like, okay, that's fine. They pay me per game. And, my kids were excited. Everybody was like, you got to do that. It's crazy. So, the only story I'll tell is they called me that fall and they were like, all right, we need you to you're going to come in and do the Bruins Rangers or someone. I was like, what? I was like, I'm not doing it. So they threw me in to an NHL game. And I was like, are you out of your minds? Like, I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. Like, and I'm asking people, like, do I talk to Dale Arnold as a host? So I'm like, do you talk to Dale? You got to look at the cameras and there's people talking in your ears. And I was like, this is going to be a nightmare. Like, anyway, I got through it and it was fine, but it was not an easy job. It was not an easy job. So it wasn't like I was sad because the following year was when I got into scouting, something opened up. And so it wasn't like I was like, man, I missed this so much because it was hard. It was very hard. But it was good experience for sure.
Ed.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that. So what was it like to work with Dale Arnold? I mean, he was kind of the consummate professional, and
Yeah.
He and Eddie Andelman had the really like one of the first shows on WEEI back in the day.
Yeah.
And then he was with Nesson for quite so many years. So what was it like to work with Dale? And
Yeah.
what kind of tricks did he give you to help you along?
He was great. He was great. And his first thing, I remember one of the first things he said, he's like, don't listen to these producers. Don't listen to producers. If you're more comfortable having a conversation with me, don't worry about looking in the camera where the lights are. And it did help. It helped a ton because you kind of forget, you know what I mean? It's like me and, like we're doing right now, we're just having a conversation. And I remember him just saying that. And it was, if he didn't tell me that and it was vice versa. And he told me, don't look at me, look in the camera. I don't know. I might have lasted like 2 games. So no, and same as like the players that I already talked about. Dal was great. He was any questions and and if I got stuck, I got stuck in a line or couldn't think of a stat or whatever. Boom, he was right there. Picked you right up seamlessly, like no one even have a clue. So he was awesome. So I do miss Dal. And is he back? I think he's back now. Is he?
I think he was last year with
Yeah.
something happened with the girl they had hosting, and he came back for that. I don't know if he's back for good or not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was
we'll
good to see him.
We'll see soon enough. It's right
Yeah.
around the corner. They're already
Yeah.
yeah. Mark, we skipped a little bit ahead with transition away from hockey, but I just want to know about your experience in Europe. How'd you go from the NHL to Europe to play in, the atmosphere over there, I've heard, is pretty good as far as like the living and how they treat the players. Can you add anything to that?
Yeah, so I always had it in my mind because I knew some guys that went and I just thought it was always could be an option at some point. But then the lockout happened in 2004 and guys were playing everywhere. I don't know if you remember, but guys were scattered everywhere. And I waited a few months. My wife was pregnant. So it was kind of like, what am I gonna do? But eventually after a few months, I was like, I gotta play. Like I'm gonna get too far behind. So my agent got me a deal in Sweden for a month on the last place team. But so it was fine. Good experience. Like met some good people. But then the next month I got signed with a team Freiburg in Switzerland. And I didn't know how this whole thing worked over there. But maybe you guys probably know this, but like if you're and this was like right in February or something, I don't even know, but it was towards the end. So they were going to be in the bottom two. So if you're the bottom two teams, you got to fight for your life against the second tiered league.
Yep.
So I show up and we're playing they're called the playouts. And I actually flew home. We're up, I don't know, we're up 2-1. I flew home, not that I delivered the baby, but my wife had her baby, flew back. The series was now 3-2. We needed one more win or something like that. We beat them, right? It was like we won the Stanley Cup. Like the fans were like, it was like you saved the team. Like, so I was part of I was like a savior or something. It was crazy. And all we did was not be the worst team. It was like we just weren't the worst team. So, anyways, it was a great experience. So that I kind of had that in and I had like nine. I think I played 9 games. I had like 9 goals, 8 assists, something. It was like it just fit perfectly. So anyway, fast forward, Boston traded me to Anaheim. I played like 20 games in Anaheim in 2000, whatever it was, 8 or something. It wasn't going great. They waived me. And when they waived me, I asked my agent, I said, hey, do you think I can ask them instead of going to Portland, Maine? Like the end's now. Like, you think they'll let me go to Switzerland, back to Switzerland? And they did. So we called a couple teams. I got it. I signed with Bern for the rest of the season, and then I ended up playing 3 more years in Freeburg, where I originally was. But you guys being hockey guys, like I don't know how much you travel or can travel, but if you can ever take a little road trip and go see a game over in Switzerland or Sweden, Finland, any of them, to be honest, it is awesome. It is awesome. It's like a soccer game inside. Like half the place they stand up the whole game. They're bouncing up and down and they're whistling and fireworks are going off, which maybe that's changed a little now, but I mean, they had M80s going off. Like, I'm like, this place is nuts, nuts. But I always tell guys that, they're thinking about it, whatever. I'm like, I'm telling you, do it. It'll be the best thing you ever do. So great memories. So although there are you only get 4 imports to get to play, so there is pressure. I will say that. You go 3 games without getting a point.
Yep.
You don't know what they're saying on the radio, but you hear your name, so you know it ain't good.
How was it living in Switzerland, Mark?
It was great. It's expensive. It's expensive, but it was great. And the best part about Switzerland, well, other than the mountains, obviously, but Sundays in Switzerland were called family days. So there was no games. Everything was closed except restaurants. You couldn't go grocery shopping. You couldn't go whatever. And everybody just flooded to the mountains. And you went skiing. If it was winter, you snowshoe, whatever you wanted to do, sledding. When the weather got better, you went hiking. So I just remember how great that was. Is like Sunday, like every family was together. And, it was very memorable in how they did that. And I think they also forced retirement at like 51 or something too. How great is that?
I'm out. You got me already.
Already out.
We're all done. We should just move to Switzerland and do the podcast full time.
Yeah.
Tom, question for Mark.
Yeah, I always wondered when you go over and play over in Europe like that, do they give you a translator or do they speak English or how does that work?
Yeah, so in Sweden, when I went to Sweden, it was difficult because the guy he only spoke Swedish, so it was tough. It was a couple times I guess he yelled my name on the bench and I didn't hear him, and he's screaming at me, and I didn't even know he was screaming at me. I look over, he's pointing, yelling at me. I'm like, how am I supposed to know? Like, so, but for the most part, I'd say 98% of them they speak English in any of those countries. It's just, all those guys take English as a second language anyway. It's required. At least it used to be. I can't imagine that's changed. So, yeah, it's normally not a problem.
Ed, question for Mark.
I mean, so how do you enjoy scouting now versus being a former player and what do you take to scouting from your playing days?
I think a lot, but I mean, I only because I had a different path, like it's what I had to go through and the coach, whether it's coaching or just my size or, getting called up, sent down, like there's so much adversity and having to just get there and try to stick there. So, but I understand too that not everybody's like that. And in this generation, which we've all kind of hit on already a little bit, is like, that's changed as well too. So like, scouting is tough in the sense that it's hard, like to find a smart hockey player that's ultra competitive. It's not there's not a lot of them anymore, or, there just aren't. But as far as translating my experience, I use it all the time. But I do step back sometimes and be like, well, it can't, I can't go off of that because the game's changed, the player has changed and whatnot. But I will say this, I wish when I was healthy scratched all those games, I wish that the GM or whoever would make you or sit you next to a scout and you know what I mean? Like sit with them and be like, what do I need to be watching? Maybe there's a player on the other team that I should be watching that emulates, I could be emulating what he does or whatever. So I think it could be more useful in that sense because now that I've been doing it for 12 years or whatever, man, it's like, I wish I only knew, like I wish I only knew some of the things or, whether it was training or just working on deficiencies more, could have helped me, maybe get to another level. But, so I don't know if that was kind of a long answer, but, it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, Mark, as we start wrapping up everything, I wanted to ask you if you could go back and talk to your younger self right before you had your first NHL game. What would you tell your younger self with your experience, scouting, your journey? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of already hit on it, and I'm actually gonna my daughter actually went to UNH. She was a gymnast at UNH. My wife was a gymnast at UNH. It's kind of weird, but anyway, she's dating a hockey guy too, and he's out in Colorado right now, and I'm gonna send him a note off of basically what you just asked me, and I think it would be just to believe in yourself and don't go out on the ice and think you don't belong for 1 second because it'll just pigeonhole you even if it's this much, it just sets you back a little bit. So I just be like, go out there because you are very close. Like anybody that signs an NHL deal, I mean, not everyone, but for the majority, you're very close. And if you get a break here or there, you can do it. But if you're going to go out there and be hesitant and waste time, which I kind of did in some regards, it can hurt you and it can cost you ultimately. So that would be what I would tell myself going backwards is who cares if Cliff Roning's jersey's hanging up there? Like it doesn't matter. You're here. You're here for a reason. Now go out and do it. So,
Tom, one last question for Mark as we bring this whole thing in.
If you could describe your career in one word, what would you use?
oh man. I would just say, and I don't know if this works for what you're looking for, but I would just say appreciative.
Works.
'Cause I really, from start to finish, whether it was my parents, whether it was, the coaches recruiting me, whether it was, you know, the GM, David Poyle signing me, like just every step of the way, there was someone that believed in me or helped me. So, that's kind of the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, we've asked everybody when we pretty much end the show that question. So,
Mhm.
Ed, your last question for Mark.
Sure, Mark. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but just kind of want to say on the scouting stuff, like, what
Yeah.
would you say to younger kids now, and like, what as a scout are you looking for, kind of at that transition age?
Mhm.
Like that 17, 18-year-old. Like, what are you looking for in a player, and what would be some things, kind of like advice at that age, that transition age, as they could possibly be signed, and they move forward to like maybe go to a D1 school or go to
Yeah. Great. That's a great question. And for me, it's all based off of compete. I mean, there's just thousands and thousands of hockey players, and once again, when I was 17, you're not really thinking about that, or you're just playing, and you think you're good, I don't know, but you're like, there's so many kids you're competing against. You have to separate yourself in some way, and it's not easy. It's not easy because a thousand kids have great shots, a thousand kids can skate well, a thousand kids can, I don't know. whatever, have quickness or whatever. But like, it's always comes down to those little details where if I'm scouting, you just can tell the competitiveness, whether it's a loose puck, whether it's, laying your body out in the line, like, to block a shot, yeah, a back check, just diving when you like literally just you need to stand out, but not stand out as a phony. You have to buy into that's what it needs to take. That's what it takes. Unless you're, one of these high-end players that scores every game, well, yeah, they're gonna have a different style the way they play. But 80% of the kids, like you fall in that category of, I don't know if I say like a middle six, forward or whatever, or a D man. It doesn't matter for that, for what position. But for me, it's competitiveness, and competitiveness can happen in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? Can happen around the net. It can happen defensively. But when you see it as a scout, whether I'm watching a college game or watching a pro game, it's right away. It's instant. It just pops at you.
So one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording was things that you have going on outside of hockey, and you wanted to talk about the Warrior Project.
Yeah, so I can't really see my shirt, but this is the little logo that we have. So it's called the Warrior for Life Fund, and I got involved with it. I think it was 2019 or 18, mostly through the Bruins alumni because I'm involved. I'm actually a board member now of the Bruins alumni. I know that's not your team, but
we will
anyway,
take anybody on the podcast, though. I will say that, Mark.
A real quick thing. My first 5 years scouting was with Montreal, and I remember the Bruins alumni would play games against charities and police and fire and all these different games, and I'm like, man, how can I get on this? I was always like, I want to play on this team. It would be so much fun and get in the locker room, whatever. I could, and I would tell Bob Sweeney and some other guy, like, I'm available. Like, I'm available. I'm in my upper 30s, whatever I was. And I never got a call, right? But right when I left Montreal and I scouted with Buffalo, they called me and I was on the Bruins alumni right away. I'm like, it was all based on Montreal. So at least they never told me that, but I think it was. But anyway, so the Bruins alumni, I've met some different people, and this Warrior for Life thing, it started in Virginia Beach way back in 2013. Basically just getting guys on the ice, guys, retired Navy guys or military guys, like they were struggling or whatever, and just need an outlet. They were supplying equipment, and so that's kind of where I jumped in originally in 2018. I went in my attic and I found a bunch of equipment and I sent it down to them, and I asked Mike Dunham. Remember Mike Dunham?
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't. He lives in Mass, and I called him. I just asked him if he had any extra pads, and so I brought some pads, some goalie stuff down. So that's kind of how I started, and I didn't really understand the whole thing really as a whole. But I mean, man, the more you meet these guys, and I've met a lot of them now, and we play games against them now, and it's become a really big thing. It's called Face Off for Heroes. But they're all Navy guys. Some are active, some are retired, and we play NHL guys versus them, and it's been a great event. We've been out to Montana, we've been to San Diego, but anyway, and now it's getting bigger, and there's a performance center down in Virginia Beach where vets can go and work out. They can go and get help. It's getting bigger and better, but on my side of it, I still want to intertwine the hockey part of it, whether it's giving equipment, whether it's playing games, whether it's having conversations with these guys about hockey or inviting them to the Bruins game, meeting them in the alumni box, all that stuff. So there's more. I could go on and on, but it's the attraction to me was, for one, the scouting thing, it's great, but you're by yourself a lot, and I kind of needed something in my life where I felt like I was, people are surprised about this too. As a scout, like I don't really know the guys on our team, really. I say hi to them when I see them, maybe at meetings or whatever, but like, they'll be like, how's Kaprizov? And I'm like, I really have no clue other than what they, because you're up watching, you don't even watch your own games a lot. You're just,
Right.
You're in other buildings. So I needed something, and this thing came along at the perfect time. and I've latched onto it, and I'm doing a mini golf tournament actually next week. We got two courses, and we're hoping to raise like 15-20,000 for the Warrior for Life Fund. So it's become something for me, and as much as I feel like I hope that I'm helping some of these guys out, it's helped me out too. Just to be able to grasp onto something, and just to watch them smile and be on the ice, it's so rewarding for me.
So we will drop the link in the description for the episode, and any of the other things that you have that you want to share with us, we'll drop that in the comments too for people to find and hopefully come across it and get eyes on it and get awareness for it. But
Awesome.
As we wrap it up, Mike, I want to tell you, like-minded individuals, right off the rip. Friend of the show, definitely friend of the show now, just on the age demographic alone. But
there you go.
Having you on this podcast, it just makes it better for us. You have brought, everything that we could hope for: stories, fun, meeting the guys, we watched you play. So, it's just an honor from the three of us to have you on, spend a Friday night past your bedtime. Past my bedtime too.
Mine too.
So, it's like I said, friend of the show, like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
We try to stay in touch with everybody going forward. And, I'm hoping to have a couple special episodes where we have multiple guys on at the same time, maybe yuck it up like a face-off type thing, and some kind of share some personalities and hockey stories too. So,
that's great. That's great. No, I appreciate as much as as much as you guys enjoy it. There's a lot of guys that have played hockey. Whether they stop in college or play pro, but we're just normal. Most of us are just normal guys, and once our careers are over, you kind of drift away. And some people will bring up your name at times, but it feels good on this side too. Is what I kind of want to tell you, like to be able to just shoot the shit and talk hockey with guys I've never met, and it's very enjoyable on this side.
Yeah, well,
Thanks, Mark.
like I said, I say it all the time, joking around. Friend of the show now, Mark Mowers.
I appreciate it.
So
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Mark. We'll let you go, and then we'll circle back tomorrow. I'll get all the links that you want me to attach.
Perfect. I appreciate it, and it was great being on with you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for your
super
time.
appreciative. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, Mark.
Thank you.